It's good to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back with Hometown Commander. We're back for a fourth deck this week with Millsy Brews for pre-con week, and I am excited. Millsy Brews is a show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the Commander in front of us on my quest out brew the magic world. And today we're finishing up pre-con week with Olivia, Opulent, Outlaw. A Mardu commander, 4-mana, 3/3 vampire assassin with flying and lifelink. Whenever one or more outlaws we control deal damage, common damage to a player, we create a treasure token. And then we can pay 3, sacrifice 2 charges to put 2+1/+1 counters on each creature we control, and only do it sorcery speed. And outlaws are the new batch mechanic in this set, batching together assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks. So, what are we trying to do? Well, we want to talk about some cool outlaws we could put in the deck. We care about making treasures, and there's a lot of outlaws that care about helping us either make more treasures or use those treasures for other things. And of course, we could also just use other treasures, use the treasures for more than just Olivia's effect. But we can make more treasures for some things, and ideally we either go wide and get tall with her ability, or just use the treasures to end the game that way. But let's hop into it with Outlaws. The precon does come with a bunch of fun outlaws, but we're also adding some more as well. Angress Marauders is going to say whenever a source we control would deal damage to a permanent player, it deals double that damage instead. Brina is a really fun addition to this deck. Whenever a player attacks with one or more of your opponents, if that opponent has more life than any of your than another of your opponents, that attacking player draws the cards, and we put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature we control. Brina is a great way to either grow itself or grow another creature you control and make it great. And this also promotes our opponents attacking each other, which is never a bad thing in a deck where probably half the time we're going to be a combat deck anyway. Gisa from the new set feels really right, being a great creature in its own right. And then whenever we commit a crime, create 2, tap 2 blue and black zombie rogue creature tokens, and they are rogues. They're going to count as outlaws, which is pretty cool. But committing a crime is not going to be very difficult. We have removal spells, we have abilities in the deck. I don't think it's going to be very hard to commit crimes once a turn and get those zombies and give them that buff. But the cool part is they are rogues, so they are going to count as outlaws. We have Hellspur Posse Boss from the main set. Other outlaws you control have haste, so this is great given all the ones that come in each turn, the ability to attack. And whenever we get ETBs, we create 2 1/1 red mercenary creature tokens with tap. Target creature we control gets +1/+0 until end of turn, activate only as a sorcery. I'll be 100% honest, this is an ability that when I first read it, I was like, okay, but when is that beneficial? And then I realized that, well, Olivia's going to get bigger as we grow our entire board, meaning that we can put the counters on her, or as we put the counters on her, tapping a couple of mercenaries to give her +3, +4, +0 until end of turn is never going to be a bad thing, especially when she gains this life back as well. Laughing Jasper Flint seems kind of cool. Creatures you control but don't own are mercenaries in addition to the other types. That may be an odd line of text until you read it. Beginning your upkeep, we can exile the top X cards of an opponent's library, where X is the number of outlaws we control, and we can cast those spells and spend a mana of any type, meaning we can steal their creatures, make them mercenaries, and make them outlaws and help us out. Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, lose a life and create a treasure, some more treasures for our abilities. And of course, Lotho is an outlaw if we can get him in. Masker Girl seems great just from Karlov Manor, giving all of our creatures withers. Whenever they deal damage to a creature, they deal in -1/-1 counters, which is great because if our opponent's chumping our tokens or our creatures, their creatures are just going to get smaller. And then whenever the creature opponent controls dies, if it's toughness with less than 1, we draw a card. Great card, well worth the 4 mana, and it's just going to help us out. Mirror Entity seems really cool. It's a outlaw because it's every creature type. But for X mana, we can give creatures we control base power and toughness XX until end of turn, and gain all creature types. So then all of our creatures become outlaws. That's pretty cool. It could be pretty useful depending on what mana we have. Port Racer's a pretty great one. When it deals combat damage to a player, we untap each creature we control. After this combat, there's an additional combat, but Port Racer can attack a player that's already attacked this turn. A very easy way to get multiple combats, multiple Olivia triggers, and just deal damage to our opponents, because at the end of the day, we do still want to win the game via combat if possible. Queen Marchesa feels really great for the deck. giving us the Monarch immediately, Death Touch Haste, and then at the beginning of our turn, if we're not the Monarch, then we make a 1/1 Assassin with Death Touch and Haste, but again, just more Outlaws. And then Vadmir New Blood from the new set seems cool. Whenever we commit a crime, we put a counter on it, and that triggers only once per turn, but as soon as it has 4 more counters, it has Menace and Lifelink, and remember, Olivia puts 2 counters on it on each creature for reactivation, meaning Vadmir is not going to be hard to turn in at all. Okay, well, how do we make more treasures? Well, we have Outlaws that make treasures. Captain Lannery Storm makes one every time it attacks. Pitiless Plunder, whenever one of our creatures die, we get a treasure. We have the ability to play Prosper, one of the probably most well-known treasure commanders of all time. In the beginning of our end step, we exile a card from our library. We could play it, and whenever we play a card from exile, we make a treasure. Again, a great creature that's all right, and it is an Outlaw, so we can take advantage of that. Big Score and Unaffected Windfall are both draw spells. Let's just draw 2 and make 2 treasures, which could be really great for churning through our deck and getting the right things we need. Zorn is probably going to be an all-star, even though it isn't an Outlaw. If we would create 1 or more treasures, we make that many plus an additional 1. Just making sure that we're always getting the benefit of more and more treasures. Smothering Tide, we're playing it here because it's so good. Whenever opponent draws a card, they can pay 2. If they don't, we get a treasure, and we're going to really use these treasures to our ability, right? We can use that ability to put counters on more than once a turn. And then the Reaver Cleaver, giving the creature +1/+1 trample, and whenever it deals damage to a player, make that many treasures, can be really good depending on the situation we're in. And then remember, we can use that treasure for mana and some of the effects we're about to talk about to like really take advantage of them. First up is Vion Goldwaker, the alternate commander of the precon. Other Outlaws you control have Vigilance and Haste. Perfect. Means they can sit back and block if need be, but hey, they get to attack the turn they come in. And then beginning of combat on your turn, you may have treasures you control become the 3/3 constructs, assassin, artifact creatures, and their other types until end of turn. Take all those creatures we have, all those treasures, and make them into assassins, and they get haste, and they can just start bonking our opponents. If you're more interested in seeing a Pahan deck, it's going to be coming up on the channel in the next week or 2. Grim Hireling, whenever one of our creatures we control deal damage to a player, we make 2 treasures, and we can sack treasures to give a creature -X/-X, great way to get a little bit of removal. Kellogg, Dangerous Mind from those Fallout decks. Whenever it attacks, we get a treasure, and we can sack 5 treasures to gain control of a creature for as long as we control Kellogg, which is pretty cool. That could be pretty helpful depending on what our opponents have or the combos we need to stop. Rain of Riches, probably one of my favorite treasure enchantments. When it comes in, we get 2 treasures, and then the first spell we cast each turn with mana that from a treasure that was spent to cast it has Cascade, allowing us just to get more value in our deck. Age of the Iron Throne, whenever a creature or an artifact we control is put to the graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses a life. Every time we sack a treasure, each opponent's losing a life, and that can stack up really fast depending on what we're doing. Marionette Master works really well, like Age of the Iron Throne. Whenever an artifact we control is put into our graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. And the cool part is we can fabricate 3 to have it come in with 3 +1/+1 counters. And the cool part here about Olivia's ability is that it doesn't say that you put the counters on Outlaws. You put the counters on every creature, meaning that even Marionette Master is going to get that buff, and is going to start meaning that every treasure we sacrifice could be 5, 7, 9 damage to target opponent, and that could start ending the game very, very quickly. Well, like I've said in other episodes, and I'll say it again, this is my version 1.0 of the deck, which means there are cards that didn't make it or cards that I wanted to try to fit in but just couldn't, that I think are still worth talking about and trying out in your deck if your deck is running these and mine isn't. Akul the Unrepentant is a 4-mana 5/5 flying trample. So sack 3 other creatures and put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield. This is a really good ability, and I think it makes a ton of sense. I just don't think I'm making enough creature tokens to really make Akul work. But if you really want to fit into the tokens a little bit more somehow, I think Akul would be really good. Professional Facebreaker, I really wanted to add in for that ability. Where one or more creatures you control deal damage to a player, create a treasure, sack a treasure to get that impulse draw. It's just not an Outlaw, and that's the reason it slightly stopped me. I wanted to make sure we had lots of Outlaws. And then Witch of the Moors is another one I really wanted. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, each opponent sacrifices a creature, and you return 1 creature from graveyard to your hand. For a long time in the building process, I was trying to figure out why this was in the deck and why it was being played so much. And then I remembered Olivia has a lifelink, which means as long as Olivia is attacking, we're going to get this ability. Of the 3 of these, this is the one I wanted to put back in the most because it's such a good ability, and it's going to be really easy to proc. But let's get into our playtest Keeping a 2-lander, but the Arcane Signet definitely is going to bail us out slightly for this one. Get that Path of Ancestry down in turn 1. This is a little bit riskier of a hand, but I kind of want to see what happens here. We go 2 in for the Arcane Signet and get that Changeling Outcast down. Great card, can't be blocked, and it's all creature types, meaning that once Olivia comes down, we can start proccing her ability. Well, turn 3, we don't see the 4th mana for Olivia, but that's okay. I think we could still find a way to get this working. We could seize the spotlight here. But that wouldn't make much sense because at this point on turn 3, I doubt people have enough creatures for it really to matter. I do kind of like Laughing Flint, though, because starting on next turn, we'll be able to take our opponent's things and get them working, which isn't a bad idea. On this upkeep, I'm just going to skip that for the purpose of this because obviously we can't see our opponents or what they have. But now every turn going forward, we're going to start doing that. Pay 2 into the Talisman. And I just think I'd get Hopeful Initiate down here. This is pretty cool. We can pay 3 mana and remove 2+1/+1 counters from among creatures we control, destroy target artifact or enchantment, which is a great ability. And now we'll be able to get that Olivia down. We're going to get at least 1 attack in for free with the Outcast, meaning we're going to make a treasure. Maybe we can get Jasper Flint into somewhere else. But hey, at least we're getting 1 treasure with it, which is important. We want to make sure we're getting as much treasure as we can every turn. And we'll go 1 more turn. Again, maybe we found something off this we want to cast, and if so, we'll cast it. Otherwise, turn 4. I guess the question here is either Mirkwood Bats or, probably or Prosper Tomebound, I would imagine. Seize the Spotlight might be better here if our opponents have more creatures, because then we could steal the creatures and get in for good damage. And remember, we're laughing. Jasper Flint would make them all mercenaries, meaning we would get triggers. So it would either be that or the bats, I think, here to get damage when you make the treasures. But let's get into our second playtest here. Oh, actually completely the other way. A 7-lander, or 6-lander, sorry, with, or 1, 2, 3, 5-lander with 2 mana rocks. We will take it. Get that Parlor in tapped. I mean, there's absolutely no reason for us to do anything turn 1. We see another Talisman. Yeah, I mean, I'm greedy enough to keep it. The Clifftop Retreat in for the Talisman. This turn we get a Swamp Down, and there's probably 2 routes we can take. We can Talisman of Indulgence into a Felwar Stone into a Changeling Outcast, or we can just dump Olivia. But I think that this is the plan I would go. Felwar into Indulgence, into the Outcast, and let's see, 1. I think we'd have to pay the 1 life there for the Talisman. But either way, this gets us an unblockable to creature next turn to trigger Olivia. We draw Academy Manufacturer, so this turn when we would go to make that treasure, we'd make a food and a clue instead. But I would go Olivia, and then we'd have enough mana to play that Academy Manufacturer. Changeling Outcast gets in for free into somebody and gets us a treasure, which would also make us a clue and a food because of Academy Manufacturer. And now we can use the food to gain some life, clues to draw some cards. I think this is a good state that we're kind of building up. This turn we get a Swamp Down, and now this is really great that we have this Deadly Dispute because we could actually get rid of this food to draw a couple cards and make a treasure and then get all 3 again, and then we would actually have enough to play Olivia's ability if we want to. I think I would want to here, only so we can see eventually what maybe we could play something else this turn. We get another food, we get another clue, and we get another treasure, of course. And we're up to 2 each there. We're just 2 mana in this turn, 6 mana left. Nohawk Scavenger seems pretty good, getting another a creature down that can attack our opponents on the next turn. And then I would probably just crack one of the clues. I kind of have no reason not to here. Draw a card, go in, try to hit somebody with Olivia and somebody with a Changeling Outcast to get a couple more treasures, a couple more food, a couple more clues. And again, at this point, then next turn, right, we could sack some of those treasures to put counters and everything, keep attacking. I like this board state. This is going to work us towards, gaining life back with Olivia, dealing good damage to our opponents. But what do you think of Olivia? Down in the comment section below. This is a deck that I think at first look, I thought the precon was going to be a little bit weak, but I think after making some additions to it, I think this deck looks like a ton of fun. And if you're looking for a fun Mardu deck that can kind of spread out and play treasures and play combat, I think that's a good one for it. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.